From the #1 best-selling author of Life Rescripted, you're now tuning in to the Year of Purpose podcast. I'm Zephan Moses Blacksburg. Jessica Beck can be found on Instagram under the username Beck What the Heck. She's a solo traveler who loves to break the traditional rules of travel and live to tell the story. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Hi.
Hey, what's going on? So you are in sunny Florida right now. I'm sitting here in 3 feet of snow. So not fair right now, but I'd love to talk about your adventures and just where you've been. I think I discovered you through Instagram. There's all these really cool people that are just traveling the world and posting up pictures about it. And solo travel is quite a neat thing that I've always been interested in. I've done quite a bit of solo travel myself, and so I thought we'd just kind of share with everybody a little bit of your story and how you, first started traveling and where your inspiration to explore the world comes from, and then we'll dive into some travel tips.
Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. So, where did this first, inspiration to get out and see the world come from?
Well, when I was really young, starting around the age of 11, I had started going on mission trips, and I went to Peru, Australia, Mozambique, Switzerland. I went to a few places at a really young age, and so that really kind of kickstarted my love for traveling and helped me to see the world as kind of a tangible thing. It wasn't some faraway made up place, like, oh, Australia, that's cool. I've been there. Like, you can go there. It happened. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's some people think that because it's so far away that, it's this thing that's out of reach. I remember, I think the first place that I went to internationally was Israel, and so it was like a 12 or
Mm,
13-hour flight.
yeah.
And while that flight is the worst, like I've always just hated any flights longer than like 5 or 6 hours. But like, if you think about it, you can get halfway around the world in a day.
Which
Like
is
it really
insane.
doesn't take all that much. It's totally insane. So it's something that's totally within reach. Where does the idea of solo travel come in? Because I mean, a lot of people are doing this now, where they're just kind of like up and leaving their jobs and just going off on their own. What's it like to be alone out there?
Honestly, I really love it. I love the freedom that you have being by yourself. Sometimes when you travel with other people, there's a ton of times it's great to be with other people, but sometimes you almost start to feel suffocated and you want alone time and you want to be by yourself. And one of the things I love traveling by myself is that I go places and I make friends there and I have people to hang out with. Um, but then when I want that alone time and I want to just go off on my own adventure, like I came there by myself, I can just say, hey, I'm gonna go out for a couple hours. I'll be back later, and meet up with my new friends later, and still have the freedom to do what I want.
Right. So I guess there's no arguing over, where are we going to go for breakfast or what are we going to eat for
Mhm.
lunch and stuff like that. That's got to be a huge help. So,
Yes.
with travel obviously comes a lot of expenses and things. Maybe share with us one of the big things that I really wanted to hit on was that, you still have a job and it
Mhm.
affords you these opportunities, which is such a great way to look at it. I pulled this from, there's a book called Vagabonding, and it's about the art
Mhm.
of long form travel around the world.
Mhm.
And, a big thing that they say in there is that we always look at our jobs and just dread them because, it's work and it's something we don't really want to do. And of course, we want to be laying on a beach somewhere. And,
Mhm.
your job is really kind of like this vehicle or this tool that gets you to where you really want to be, which is on that trip. So
Mhm.
maybe share with us a little bit about, what you're doing for work and how you balance that out with your travels.
Well, I am a hairstylist, which is great because I kind of have a little bit more control over my schedule as far as taking time off of work. I can, as long as I know at least, 4 to 6 weeks ahead of time, I can block, a few days on my schedule and book my clients around that. And so what I do is I just work and work and save up enough money that I can to travel and save my tips and, do whatever I can at home. I also got a second job, like hostessing at a restaurant. And I actually did that more, I think, to keep me busy so I wouldn't be spending my money than necessarily to make money because I don't make a ton of money there. But I just basically work until I have just enough money saved to leave, and then I leave for however long, and then come back and go back to work.
Yeah, so I mean it's kind of like you get to take this extended break from work and then you come back to it and then you wash, rinse, repeat in a good way because you get to
hmm
do the things you really want to do. Let
hmm
me ask you this: how do you prepare yourself just for building up a savings and things like that, or is this one of those things where it's like you save up just enough to go and then you just go for it?
So far I've been saving up just enough to go and go for it, but that's actually something I'm currently working on. This year I've started planning a trip that I want to take that will probably happen in not until October, and I'm really taking this whole year to try to um, be more careful about saving more money and kind of having a little bit extra so when I do go on these trips, I'm not like, if anything bad happens, I don't know what I'm going to do about it.
Right.
So this year I've started, making a savings plan. This is how much money roughly how much money I'll need. So I should save up, if I need $1,000, I should probably save up around 1,500, 1,700, something like that. And if I want to go in October, I need to put away this much every month,
Right.
uh, like on top of whatever I'm paying for my bills and all that.
There's actually a really cool thing that I've seen because a friend of mine uses this. It's called Simple, and it's like a debit card where you set these goals of how much you want to save, and each month it pulls a percentage out of the money you're putting into your bank account, and it puts it like towards that goal. So it's like having
Oh, it's awesome.
imaginary savings accounts in a sense, but like a different savings account for every goal, and it just like pulls a
Yeah.
percentage out and says like, okay, like you had enough for this, but you didn't make enough this month to like put money towards that goal. Um, and that seems like a really cool idea. I like that he's doing that because he was saving up for a trip to Budapest that
Oh, wow.
happened a couple months back, and it's not the cheapest thing to
hmm
do. So that I think that was a huge tool for him. Now, when you're figuring out how much all these trips are going to cost, obviously it's very easy to figure out, how much the flight is and where you're staying. How are you figuring out, how much you want to spend on food and entertainment and things like that?
Well, one of the big things that I do is research through other people's blogs. Um, and you can find a lot of people that have blogs. Like the trip that I'm trying to plan right now is to Southeast Asia. So I'll search like travel blog Southeast Asia budget or something along the lines of that. And there's a lot of people that say, I just spent 3 months traveling around Southeast Asia. I spent roughly this much money on food in this country, and it'll break it down by country and tell you roughly how much you'll need. And like Nomadic Matt has a lot of good resources for budgeting for different destinations, and he'll go into detail about this is how much you need if you want to eat out at nice restaurants, or
Mm-hmm.
this is how much you'll need if you're going to eat street food. And they'll do like the same thing for how much like average cost of hostels in the area and stuff like that. So I'll go in and figure out this is how many days I'm going to be gone. This is roughly like a rough estimate of how much you need for it, and kind of use that as a baseline.
So a lot of this stuff it sounds like is pretty calculated for the most part. Like you are doing your research. It's not just like,
Mm,
hey, let's get a plane ticket. See you guys later.
yeah, as much as I wish I could just do that, so that not wouldn't necessarily work out all the time. But
Yeah.
another thing that I do is I'll decide ahead of time like the different like tours and stuff like that that I feel like I have to do on there. Obviously, when you travel, you have to be really flexible. But I'll say like for example the trip that I'm planning right now, I want to make sure that I want to take a cooking class in Bangkok. So I've researched different ones, and this is how much this is going to cost, and I need a 3-day pass for Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and I get like I'll make a separate budget plan for this is how much the activities that I feel like I have to do while I'm there are going to cost. So this is a whole separate lot of money outside of just my food money or my fun money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. That's super smart to set that all up in advance. And, maybe you don't book everything in advance, but at least you have a good idea of, where
Yeah.
you're going to go once you get there.
Yeah.
Now, like, how are you spending your time? At least, like, are you in hotels mostly? Are you in hostels? Like, where do you split up your time as far as where you stay when you travel?
I stay in hostels when I travel. Especially as a solo traveler, hostels are great because not only are they very affordable, there's all sorts of people there. There's gonna any other solo travelers are also gonna be there, and a lot of times you can link up with other solo travelers and run into different groups of people, and it's a really great place to make friends. Um, they hostels usually also have really affordable options for food, or they'll have kitchens that you can use if you want to cut costs by buying food at the grocery store and cooking it yourself. Um, Hostels are can be a really good resource for a lot of things that you need as a traveler, especially as a solo traveler.
Yeah, and how about, safety wise? Because I'm sure that's just on people's minds, just who haven't stayed in hostels or places like that before.
I personally, I know everybody has different experiences, but I personally haven't had any experiences at hostels where I ever felt unsafe. I mean, they all have places to put your belongings, and they'll either provide locks or you can buy locks at some of them. I always bring a combination lock with me on my trips. And then if a hostel provides one, then I don't need to use it. And if they don't provide one, then I have one. So you can lock your stuff up so you don't have to worry about people stealing it. I mean, you're in a room with 12 other people. So if there's one person who is trying to do something wrong, they're surrounded by a bunch of other people all the time. You know what I mean?
Right, so
And I
it's
found,
not so easy.
yeah, and I found that my experience in hostels, everyone there is there for exactly the same reason that I am. They're all people traveling on a budget, looking to have a good time, make friends, see some cool stuff, and have a cheap place to go to bed at night.
Now, what do you do if one of those people snores?
um, it happens. Um, it's just something that I guess you deal with. I've heard of people bringing earplugs and stuff like that. I personally am not bothered by it too much. Maybe if I walk in to go to bed and somebody's already snoring, it could be inconvenient. But when you're traveling, most of the time you're so exhausted at the end of the night that there's not a lot that's going to prevent you from falling asleep.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, I guess that's part of it, is traveling with other people and, random strangers from around the world. I bet it's a trade off. You never know who you're going to run into because there's some really cool people. But at the same time, you do give up a couple of small creature comforts of, being
Hmm.
at home in your memory foam mattress.
Yes. I stayed at a hostel in New Orleans for Mardi Gras last year. I went to Mardi
Nice.
Gras by myself, and I had only booked a bed for one night and decided I wanted to stay for two. And when I asked the front desk if I could extend, they didn't have any beds left, but they had so many people trying to stay that they opened up their day room. And because it was a guest house or something, but they had dorm rooms. And so they opened up their day room and just set out cots and put, like, for everyone that had reserved one, they just wrote their name on a piece of paper and gave it to you, and you set it on whatever cot you wanted to sleep on that night. So I literally one night slept on a cot surrounded by a bunch of other people on cots in a day room in the front by the lobby of
Nice.
a hostel.
Nice. That sounds
But
cool.
it was cool, and it's kind of a cool story to tell. It definitely wasn't the most comfortable night of sleep that I've ever had, but it allowed me to have another day in New Orleans. It only cost me $30, whereas the rest of the hotels were going for upwards of 300. So I think it was worth it.
Yeah, I mean, 10 nights at this place is like one night at a hotel. So, I mean, you can't beat it. And it probably leaves you a lot of extra wiggle room with your budget so that you can do stuff locally and really get into the culture and experience stuff.
Exactly.
So, when you're packing for these trips, how, I usually like to think that I'm pretty good at packing bags for going on trips, and then I end up, leaving for the airport and realizing that I packed enough clothes for a month.
Mhm.
how do you, what's your travel tips as far as making sure you're only bringing just enough? And I've heard on some podcasts, people will actually buy clothes when they get to a certain location,
Hmm.
just to have, cool new stuff and not have to
Hmm.
travel with it when they're on their way there. So what are you doing when you're packing, not only clothes, but toiletries and everything else you have to bring?
Yeah, see, this for me was a challenge. I just did like a 3 week long trip in Central America, and when I was looking for travel tips, I had a really hard time because they were all um written by guys, and guys can pretty much get away with wearing a t-shirt and shorts anytime to any place and wearing the same thing over and over again. And as a girl, I was like, I can't do that. Like, I mean, I could, but I don't like to, and I probably should if I want to pack better. But what I did, as far as clothes go, I would bring like a couple pairs of shorts and a few different shirts that were all versatile and could all be mixed match, worn over and over again. Things that could double as like something to wear to the beach and something to wear out. Um, so I just pack like multi-purpose clothes. Don't
Yeah.
bring any like occasion specific things to wear because when you're not at that occasion, then it's just taking up space. And when you're carrying a backpack, space is also weight and extra stuff you're lugging around from place to place. And as far as toiletries went, I brought for my hair like a cleansing conditioner instead of bringing shampoo and conditioner. Um, Also, at Lush, they sell shampoo and conditioner in like bars of soap, but it's not. It's actually good for your hair and stuff like that. Which I'm a hairstylist, so that I think about this stuff. But in that way, you have a lot that's going to last you a long time, and you don't have to worry about if you're only bringing carry-on, how many ounces it is, stuff like that. So that is something really helpful to know. And I will bring like as far as shoes, like one pair of flip-flops, a pair of hiking boots if I'm going to be hiking, and that was it for my whole trip. And I wore my hiking boots whenever I was going from place to place, so I never had to pack them, and flip-flops don't take up hardly any space.
Right, right. Yeah. I'm always worried about what to pack because and it always depends on where you're going, right? If you're going
Mhm.
somewhere warm, it's so easy to just pack like a light jacket, t-shirt and
Mhm.
jeans and be done with it. But,
Yeah.
even I'm just getting ready to go to Arizona here next weekend, and I mean, it goes up to like 65 during the day, but it can go down to like 25 a night. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to be versatile. And I've actually found that those multi-layered jackets, like winter coats where they have an outer shell and an inner shell, are
Uh-huh.
so helpful sometimes because, if you want a lighter jacket, you just unzip it out of the outer layer and you've just got like a lighter jacket, or if you need a raincoat
Mhm.
or something like that, it's super helpful.
Yep, and when I was on my last trip, I spent part of it in some of the colder places of Panama, like in Boquete and like in the La Fortuna Cloud Forest at a place called the Lost and Found Lodge. So I also had to bring some stuff that was going to be warmer because it's not that cold there, but like we said, I'm from Florida, and I think 65 is like pretty cold. And so I have like a really thin but warm jacket from North Face, and it doesn't take up a ton of space, and it's waterproof, and it's really warm, and it's a windbreaker, and that was like a lifesaver. And then I brought a hoodie that I wore it in the airport, and I wore it in the plane, so I didn't have to actually really pack that in the airport places. And I think I brought one other really thin, just raincoat jacket that wasn't really for warmth as much as it was just waterproof.
Well, you brought up two really good points there. I think that people undervalue what they're actually wearing onto the plane. More
Mhm.
often than not, I'm packing stuff in my bag and planning for the week, but I'm not thinking about the fact that I've got a whole outfit that I'm wearing onto the plane. So,
Mhm.
if I'm only gone for like 5 or 6 days and only need one pair of jeans, I'll wear that onto the plane, and then that's one thing that I don't have to pack in my bag.
Yep.
And so that's always been super helpful for me is planning, maybe like whatever I wear on the plane going there, I'll wear on the plane back too, so I can wear
Mhm.
it multiple times. And who cares what I smell like except for the person who's next to me on the plane, as long as I don't stink.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I've worn the clothes twice or not. And then you also brought up a good point about how North Face jackets, they're not cheap. Like
Mm-mm.
they're usually like 200-300 bucks. But I think that's one of those purchases where it's like it's such a good investment because you buy it
Yeah.
once and those things last forever.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I said when I bought mine. I said, this is lightweight, it's small, it's multi-purpose, and it's going to last me forever. And bonus, I bought mine at a North Face outlet, and so it was only like 80 bucks.
Oh, well, there you go. That's perfect.
Yep.
So, what are you doing when you get to these places where, obviously you're traveling to tons of different countries that have different languages being spoken? What are you doing as far as just communicating and, making sure that, someone doesn't sell you like a $50 cup of coffee?
Well, one of the good things about like I've pretty much on my last trip in Central America followed like a pretty well-known backpackers route. It's called the Gringo Trail, but it's if you follow these places that are pretty well known for tourism, when you get there, there's going to be a lot of people that speak both languages. Um, a lot of people that run businesses over there, they know that they're dealing with tourists, and if you know a little bit of Spanish or whatever language it is, and they know a little bit of English, you can usually communicate. And also, like I said, at hostels and stuff, even if you don't go to a hostel, but if you're making friends there, like you can make friends with people who speak both languages. I met a girl from Mexico on a bus in Costa Rica going the same, general direction as me, and we stayed together. And I don't speak Spanish, but she's from Mexico, so she spoke Spanish and English, and she was able to translate for me and help me get where I needed to go and stuff like that. So a lot of times, you just kind of find people that speak both languages and just and body language is important. If you work to communicate, usually you can figure something out.
Yeah, I think that the language barrier isn't really as big of a problem anymore. And even so, it's very easy to use, hand gestures or body language, much like you said. If you're trying to order something out at a market or something like that, it's easy to just point and show them how many you want.
Mhm.
So I think that's getting easier and easier as the years go by. Let's talk a little bit about some of just the different places that you've been to, any places that you highly recommend, and then just any other sort of travel tips that come up as you go along.
Mhm. Um, Places that I recommend as far as travel within the US, I really like Savannah, Georgia a lot. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of history there. There's good stuff to do, and it's beautiful. It's a great place to walk around and, um, just kind of relax and sightsee and do stuff like that. And I think that it's kind of underrated. I don't think people realize how fun it is and how cool it is until they go there. And so it's not like an overrun tourist spot that's got souvenir shops on every corner,
Right.
but it's still nice and fun and pretty and worth the trip. And there's a lot of good stuff there. Also, I am a huge fan of New Orleans. I think I went 3 times last year, but it's just so much fun. Even like the culture is just really different. I mean, it's still the United States. It's not like you're gonna culture shock or anything, but they have city specific food. They have like it's just the whole experience is really cool over there. Um, like if you go to Frenchman Street in New Orleans, you can see some really good music, like jazz music, and there's good food. And if you just walk around the French Quarter during the day, you got all these street performers and people playing music. Or I saw one guy out there set up a boombox and do like this whole like acrobatic breakdancing routine
Nice.
that was cool. And like there's just so much to see and do there that I think is really awesome. um let's see. I don't know. Those are probably my top two that I visited in the U.S. over this past year. Like I said, I just got back from a trip in Central America, and I went to Panama and Costa Rica, and it was really great. If I have any piece of advice for anybody going to Panama, to make sure that they visit the Lost and Found Lodge. It's a hostel that's in the La Fortuna cloud forest. Um, and I actually found it in the Central America on a Shoestring Lonely Planet guidebook. And it's so beautiful and there's so much to do. They have guided tours that are still really affordable. And they also have like free day trips of places to go that they'll give you maps to and tell you how to get to. Like I went to the river canyons and went swimming, and that was really awesome. And it didn't cost you anything while you're there to do that. And they have um, it's really cool. It's in the forest, and you have to hike like 20 minutes to get there. It was a really good experience. And everyone that I met that was there, that I met a lot of people said they hadn't been planning on going there, and they heard about it from someone else, so they decided to stop to give it a chance, and it was by far the best thing they did in Panama. I
Nice.
didn't meet anyone who was unhappy with their time there. There was so much to do, and it's beautiful. Like the view in the morning, like of the mountains right in front of you, it's awesome. It's really awesome. And it's a
Yeah.
hostel, so it's pretty cheap. So that's
Yeah.
another plus.
No, that's a huge plus. I mean, and that's definitely one of the places on my list. A friend of mine, someone who we also just had on the podcast recently, Kamanzi Constable, he just, I think he went to Panama like 2 or 3 times because he went there once, and then the company that he spoke at, they were like, "Oh man, we have to bring you back." So I think they
Mm,
actually paid to send him back.
nice.
But yeah, really cool place, definitely on my list. And
Hmm.
as we round off this episode, this has been awesome. Just any sort of final words of encouragement for people who, want to take the leap and want to experience the world, and maybe they're afraid of what their friends or family will think of them for taking a break from their job or their life. I know that was a huge piece for me when I started traveling, was that I was worried what other people would think or say about me because I'm basically putting my work and my friends and life on hold for a little bit.
Hmm. I think it's important to know um, that you don't have to wait for somebody else to go with you. Like if at the end of your life you have all these things that you wish you had done, and the only excuse you have for not having done them is I didn't have anyone to go with me, like that's not I don't think that that's enough of an excuse to not do something. And if you're worried about what people will say or how your family will react and all that stuff, I mean, honestly, it's your life and the things that you want to do. It's not because you love them or care about them any less. It's important that you live your life and see the things that you want to see and do the things that you want to do. And I know that it helped my family a lot, just the amount of research and stuff that I put into some of my bigger trips, because then when they were coming up with all these safety concerns and all these questions about everything, and I could give them sound, solid answers, that helped a lot because that helped them and myself feel like I wasn't going in totally blind. And I
Right.
think that's one of the things when families and friends aren't supportive of going on long trips like this. They're really just, they love you and they're worried about your safety and that you're, you know, thinking things through. And if you can show them that you are, and that you do understand that there are risks involved, but you know how to deal with them, I think that that does a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure that says a lot because it really shows that, this isn't just leaving on a whim. This is something that you've
Mhm.
really looked into and taken the time to research. So that's awesome. I think that's great advice. And that's something that I really advise anybody to do is, even though it might seem to the outside that you just bought a plane ticket and up and left, really just do your research and figure out, bare minimum, some good safe places to stay, some
Mhm.
awesome places to visit and eat, and the rest, just be going in with an open mind so that you never know who you're going to run into or what adventures you're going to get invited out on. So
Mhm.
I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly it. And if you everywhere nowadays has Wi-Fi, you could tell people I'll check in when I get to every hostel I'm staying at, or when I get wherever. Every time I have Wi-Fi, I'll send a Facebook message so you know I'm okay. And you can regularly check in with people while you're there, and that helps a lot too.
Awesome. Well, that's a huge help knowing that Wi-Fi is pretty much everywhere now, and it's great that we've gotten to that point because I'm sure 5-10 years ago it wasn't as easy. So that's cool to
Hmm.
know that. Well, Jessica, what's the best place for people to keep track of your adventures? I know I found you through Instagram, and you go to some pretty cool places and take photos of it all. So what's the best place for people to keep track of where you're headed to and what you're doing next?
Yes, best place for me is Instagram. My name is Beck What the Heck, and also my blog www.beckwhattheheck.com. There I post about all my adventures and what I'm doing and where I'm going. You'll see some of my pictures there that you didn't see on Instagram and vice versa. So both of those ways are good ways to keep a track of me.
Good stuff. Well, thanks so much for being here. And where are you headed to next?
Next, my next big one is going to be Southeast Asia. Prior to that, I'll probably be in Savannah a couple more times, probably New Orleans again this August, and hopefully the Keys sometime soon.
Nice. Awesome. Well, it sounds like you're really enjoying that warm weather down there. So I'm feeling a little
Yes.
bit jealous here. I'm stuck inside with this 3 feet of snow outside. But thanks for being here with me today. And it's been
Mhm.
great connecting. And I hope we stay in touch.
Yes, me too. I'm sure we will. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey everyone, it's Zeph. Did you like this episode? Be sure to subscribe so that you can tune in next week and tell a friend about the show. If you want access to free training and exclusive interviews on success, happiness, lifestyle design, and adventure, visit me at yearofpurpose.com. Until next time, go out and let life surprise you so that you can live a life rescripted.